iBeam and Creative Commons. She's the co-founder of the Open Hardware Summit, where she helped establish the guidelines for open hardware. Also helped establish the open hardware logo that we see gracing quite a few components and products, an ever-growing number of them as time goes on. She's one of Inc. magazine's 35 individuals under 35. She's a TED Fellow. And she's also the co-founder and CEO of a little company called LittleBits. A lot of you guys have probably seen LittleBits, launched in 2011 and has been growing like crazy, really, ever since. Yesterday, LittleBits announced their latest endeavor called the BitLab, and I'm excited to discuss BitLab with Aya here on stage. So, ladies and gentlemen, Aya Badir. See you. Yeah. So let's. Do you want to? We could sit and we could stand. However you'd like to do it.
Like sitting like
yeah, let's sit down.
Oh wait, Mike. They told me to do it. Hello. Hello.
Okay. We'll bring these forward. All right. So as I was mentioning, yesterday, LittleBits had a big announcement, BitLab, which is the next evolution in the LittleBits story. I would love for you to give everyone here a quick peek into what is BitLab and what does it mean for you guys and for all of us, really.
Sure. So for those that may not know, LittleBits is a library of modular electronics for learning and for prototyping. It's an ever-growing open source library of lights, sound, sensors, transmitters, cloud bits, all sorts of electronics that allow you to prototype really quickly and create your own inventions. And over the past few years, since 2011, we've been building up the library, and we now have over 60 modules that allow for trillions of billions of combinations so that you can make anything from a wireless robot to an SMS doorbell to big sort of learning initiatives. And yesterday, we launched the BitLab, which has been really something that we've been working on for many years, but we really needed to have the foundation of LittleBits ready for the BitLab. What that is, it's a marketplace for user-generated hardware. It means that we've opened up LittleBits even further to allow anyone to design their own module. So you can submit your idea on the website. If you get 1,000 votes, we will vet it and we will check for manufacturing feasibility. Then we will manufacture it and give you 10% of the proceeds, and you're able to sort of launch your idea without necessarily going into production yourself. So we're very excited because it means that people who may have small ideas that are sketches or may not have ever thought to manufacture something can get started easier, and it also means that the possibilities end up expanding even further.
One of the things I think is really interesting is the idea of LittleBits is a way to really facilitate and simplify the prototyping of electronic circuits. So you can build something using LittleBits quickly and with a relatively low amount of know-how to do something that you're thinking of. But now what you've done is you've also allowed people to jump into the LittleBits themselves and prototype the bits that they might want to use to then prototype additional circuits. So I'm curious, is the BitLab concept? I mean, essentially, we're talking about an app store model. This is, which is also a relatively new concept in the business place as it is. The sharing of revenue based off of a platform that the community can build around. So over the last few years, as LittleBits has grown, I'm wondering if this was something that has always been part of the bigger plan, or is this something where you've recognized that here's an opportunity, the community's looking for something, and we should jump into this and allow the community to work within this platform that we're developing?
The BitLab has always been the plan of LittleBits, really before the company even started, since early 2009. When it was still a prototype itself. But it's a combination of sort of we had to wait, we had to build up the library so that it was rich and robust enough so that you can make things that are meaningful. And second, more importantly, we had to build up the supply chain to be able to deliver on our promise. Because it's all nice if you put up a web page and say, hey, submit your ideas and let me manufacture them. But then we have to manufacture them, and so you know, we had to build up that capability, and now we have a very modular and very flexible supply chain that can handle it, such that we can put up a new bit, we can try it out in small quantities. If it works out, great, we make more of it. If it doesn't, we can sort of end of life it and take forward. So. You know, it's always been part of the vision, but it's one of those things that took time to come together, and it was internally, and some of the early members of the team have always been very kind of, you know, pressed for time and kind of really excited and let's launch it this year, let's launch it this year. But we really had to wait for the right moment, and we now have a community that's buzzing and thousands of submissions coming in on Dream Bits over the past few years that we hope people will actually act up on now.
And Dreambits is the section of the Little Bit site where the community can submit ideas. There's actually a lot of really clever concepts in there, but now this is there's an ability for those ideas to become reality.
Exactly.
You know, beyond just internally having to develop stuff.
The exciting thing is that it's ideas that we've never even thought were possible, things that I've never even thought or been interested in necessarily. You know, some things are sort of obvious, triple axis accelerometer, pneumatic valve, but other things are, for example, a hover bit, or one of our BitLab partners that we launched with made an EMG sensor that he uses to teach neuroscience to kids and measure muscle activity on cockroaches. And so, you know, things that, you know, we never thought were possible. That's sort of the BitLab page, and we launched with a few partners to showcase and to test the mechanics of it, and so he was one of them.
That's cool. I think everybody's probably really excited to start using their little bits on cockroaches.
On cockroaches, yeah. Well, me too.
So, what are some of the other? I know that there were 6, if I'm not mistaken, celebrity bit partners with the BitLab launch yesterday. What were some of the other ones that you guys are starting off with?
So before we announced the BitLab, we had been working, the first really alpha tester was Korg, the music technology company based in Japan that we developed a synth kit with, and they were the first external developer that we worked with to kind of really test out how the relationship would work and how we would create documentation. The second one was Arduino, and we made an Arduino module as part of their Arduino at Heart program. And then when we launched the BitLab yesterday, we announced a few others. So Makey, Jay Silver, who spoke here last year, with his very famous and very exciting capacitive sensing module that can connect to bananas and oranges and real-life objects. Greg Gage with his EMG sensor. Bleep Labs with their, they made a drum beat that works really well with the synth kit. Gabotronics, who made a small oscilloscope. And Bear Conductive, who makes conductive ink and was able to make a capacitive proximity sensor that can work through large surfaces and create kind of more wearable and physical installations.
And then moving forward, I imagine people are already starting to get their bit submissions together and sent into BitLabs. When and then within 45 days, that's the period for the 1,000 votes.
Yeah.
How long after that would you expect that people might see some of the first community-supplied bits from the BitLab process?
So to get you started, we made an HDK. The HDK has our magnetic connector, which is something that we made custom at Little Bits, and you can now use to prototype your next module, as well as a proto module and a perf module, so you can connect to a breadboard and get started really quickly. So that hasn't, it only started shipping yesterday. Well, it'll start shipping in the next couple of days, and so people haven't been able to prototype yet. So they haven't submitted anything yet. But after the voting period, it really depends. I mean, some modules will be very easy. You would expect them to be, you know, a humidity sensor is a relatively easy module. If you want to go all the way to a camera, it becomes a much more complicated one, more expensive one. So really, unlike the world of apps, of software, hardware has to be evaluated on a case-by-case basis, depending on the BOM, on the lead time for materials, on the sanity of the circuit itself. So. Right. We hope to do it between 30 and 60 days, but that's the goal.
Okay, it's exciting. So one of the other things I think is really interesting with Little Bits is how much you've adhered to the open hardware standards that you helped establish. And with the BitLab launch, you were also explaining that you're opening up the magnetic connector as part of the API for that, as part of, I guess, the HDK, which previously was the one patented piece in there. But and how does that work? Tell me and tell everyone, what the importance of open hardware and why that's something that you've stayed so strongly connected to with Little Bits, and how it connects to everything as we move forward.
Well, now you make me look bad because we didn't open the magnetic connector.
Well, my mistake. I apologize for getting that from
No, it's okay. All Little Bits electronic circuits are open source. All the design files, the schematics, the board files are all online. The magnetic connector we didn't open. We patented it because it took over 3 years of development and a few $100,000 to develop. And to be honest, we are a funded company, and we needed to maintain a balance of being open, but also being having business advantage and being able to, be a business.
Yeah. Survive, perhaps.
Yeah, and so. But yesterday what we did is we made the magnetic connector available individually. So you can now, actually previously, and a lot of people in the community on Instagram, on Twitter, on YouTube, we see it all the time, people buy Little Bits and they desolder the magnetic connector and they connect to something else. So we made it available. It's these gray connectors, and then you have these stickers that you can put them on top. But to go back to the original question, open hardware is very, very important, has been a pillar and a foundation for Little Bits since the beginning. I used to be a fellow at Creative Commons, and that's where I started doing research on open source hardware. It's a complex proposition. It's not like software where you distribute for free and you copy for free. In the case of hardware, there are more complexities, so it takes a little bit more balance. But for us, it's about opening up an industry, which is the electronics industry, and democratizing it, because the electronics industry has been very top-down, very closed, very much controlled by some of the largest companies and their R&D teams kind of parachuting their ideas for the best products onto us. And we believe that only a true kind of hardware revolution will happen when hardware is democratized and becomes accessible to anyone so that anyone can innovate. We saw it working with software, we saw it working with manufacturing when 3D printing came along, and we want to do the same thing with hardware.
Do you see, as we move forward into this, this new space, it looks like this is a growing development, but with both open hardware and open software as well, how do you see things continuing to move as we go from here forward?
I think what's going to happen, and actually it's already started to happen, is the open hardware movement started to put pressure on some of the larger companies to reconsider their practices. So we've seen a lot of bigger companies open up APIs, some of them open up their circuits, open up design files, share their patents like GE has done recently. And I think the net it would be positive for the industry as a whole. And for these large companies, whereas they used to think that you had to be very tight with the innovation, oftentimes 70 to 80% of your innovation isn't really all that innovative. And so if you open it up and you keep some balance, then the whole level rises of innovation, and you're able to benefit from the community too. And so we're seeing a lot more bigger companies really understand that. We get calls and emails from large companies all the time asking us to help them develop a maker mentality, develop innovation centers. We have this pro library that we've developed to help them prototype that started to integrate in companies that we never thought would, that were previously sort of very close. So it's exciting to see kind of the small guys affecting the big guys.
That's great.
Or gals. Yeah.
Right. One of the other things I think is really interesting, in late July we talked as you were preparing to launch CloudBit, and that was really where I realized there's quite a bit happening here with Little Bits. In fact, Jason, can I grab the copy of this? So as many of you guys probably saw in the hallway, the new issue of Make Magazine, which is in mailboxes for subscribers now and newsstands. Yeah, exactly. It's at newsstands in a week. But we ended up putting little bits on the cover because a lot of the stuff that you're doing, I think it's an evolution of of everything that the maker movement stands for, prototyping and a new approach to looking at just how we do things. But the cloud bit itself is it's a Wi-Fi enabled bit that allows people to have remote access to everything. Since then, it's been a little over a month since that launched. I'd love to hear about what are some of the biggest surprises you've seen from the cloud bit. Actually, even from more than that, just everything. What are some of the biggest surprises overall that you've come across in the little bits world?
It's always shifting. Some of the things that are most exciting to me are when people use little bits, and the cloud bit in particular, for applications that are completely outside kind of electronics and prototyping. So we've seen a lot of uses in art, for example. We've seen the synth kit has been used as a performance instrument in actual DJ sets among professionals, and people like Brian Eno and Hans Zimmer wrote in to us telling us how this could be the future of a new type of music. So that was something that was astounding, and I never thought was possible. With the cloud bit, we've seen people make sort of everything on the spectrum, remaking some of the most common Internet of Things devices. You can create your own smart connected thermostat. You can create your own, doorbell, SMS doorbell. You can create an intruder alarm, things like that you would otherwise have to either purchase finished or hire somebody professional to do. You could do that within minutes. We've seen also people do things that are really kind of surprising, like one of our community members made, pet feeders are very, very popular. A lot of people do remote pet feeders for dogs, cats, rabbits, fish. Apparently there's a lot of hungry pet out there. I mean, really, weather dashboards. The cloud bit tends to have a little bit more functional applications, more home automation, functional uses than the synth kit, which is more artistic.
Yeah. Well, I know I've got a remote catapult project, so I can launch a catapult on my desk anywhere in the world. Yeah, sure. I'll put. Yeah, I was thinking about my coworkers, but. But anyways, so a lot of exciting things. It looks like we're just about to wrap up time here, but I wondered if you had any last words to say to the audience before we have to jump off stage.
I guess what I would say is we have a few of those BitLab submissions up, so go in and support the ones you like. Hardware developers have typically been sort of considered a little bit sort of not forgotten, but given less attention than the software developer community. Software developers are put on a pedestal, and they're flip-flops and hoodies and all that stuff, and they're billion-dollar companies. But hardware developers are a thriving community, extremely, extremely intelligent and talented people from all over the world. And now we believe it's their time to shine, and it's their time to sort of put up their innovations. But it also means that the community needs support. So show your support, and if you have ideas, please do submit them. And this includes if you're sort of a person on your own in a garage, or if you're a company wanting to partner. We're open to everything, and we're really excited by it.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you, Aya, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Aya Badir, everybody.
Thanks, Mike. See you later.
Thank you, Aya. And she mentioned